Welcome to the Issues of Sports, along with the Rude Dog, Rudy Reyes. I am E-Mak Evan Makovsky, and the Kansas City Chiefs, Rude Dog, they win the Super Bowl, an exciting game in overtime. We're not here to recap that. They've now won, what is it, 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. I don't know, 6 straight AFC Championship games. You can hear that elsewhere, but what we're here to talk about is what happened at the parade. So all these Kansas City fans are going to celebrate a huge Super Bowl victory in overtime in Las Vegas. They're going out to, party and take it in, and they have a true dynasty now that's really on the up and up, and absolute tragedy strikes their parade, Rude Dog, as there is an open shooter. We believe they have 2 people arrested. One woman dies, Lisa Lopez Galvin, who was a radio DJ. She passed away. We have 22 people. That's a fair amount injured. Half of them are under the age of 16. And suddenly, you can't even compare sports to this, but something that should have been a glorious, fun day for the city, now it's like this mass shooting tragedy has now infected all areas of life.
Yeah, no, it has, Evan, and you're absolutely right. I believe that when you look at the totality of this entire scene, I've seen various video clips from people that were on the ground. Their boots were on the ground. They were able to look at all the disbursement of people surrounding Union Station. And it was just a horrible situation that I wouldn't wish anyone to be in, regardless of age. But the fact that all of these were kids that are even more in the way because of the enamoring that they felt along with all these players, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, the list goes on and on. It's just a very tragic experience. I would not want any of my children to experience, but sadly enough, a lot of the fans are younger, and they have a long road ahead of them in regards to emotional recovery, mental recovery, and clearly physical as well. So this is very tragic, to say the very least. This overshadows anything. As a part of an otherwise fantastic parade, would have been probably one of the most prolific in memory for those that did attend. Unfortunately, it turned sideways very, very quickly, and all it took were for people to argue, disagree, from my understanding, and essentially guns were fired.
All right, we have Bob Fescoe, who used to host this podcast on his legendary resume, but he has been the man in the morning on 610 in Kansas City. He's the morning show host. He's been on top of the whole story all year long. He was geeked up. Him and I were texting. I mean, look, I don't normal sports things. His team's going to win the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl, and now suddenly, Bob, why don't you take it away? I won't even say how are you, but hi, Bob.
Hi, Evan. Hi, Rude Dog. I appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, yeah, it was really like a day of celebration that turned tragic, obviously, with what happened. And this was the first parade that I personally didn't go to because it just didn't work out in the schedule for the show and everything that was going on from a work standpoint that day. But my family was down there, and they were down and taking part in the parade as they do every year. And luckily enough, they had an opportunity to stay at the Westin the night before, which is the hotel right across the street from Union Station. So they were able to get inside their room. But at one point, they were locked down inside their hotel room. And I'm a father of 2 girls and my wife, and they each had a friend down there. So it's 4 kids and my wife that were on lockdown at this hotel while the gunman was allegedly in the lobby of that hotel. And so it was very scary. I mean, you can imagine what it was like to feel like a helpless husband and a helpless father in that situation, because there really wasn't anything I could do except just stay by the phone, listen to them, check in with them, make sure that they were okay. But from my standpoint, there was nothing I can do. And I know I'm not the only one who felt helpless that day, because there were, hundreds of thousands of people down there who felt helpless in that situation. And so it was just a horrible, horrible situation, obviously, to have a day like it was, and a celebration of just such a great accomplishment, 3 Super Bowl championships in 5 years, and then immediately is ruined by the aftermath of the parade. And that's what everybody is focused on right now, because it is a terrifying, tragic event that has happened to our town. And the thing about Kansas City is there may be 2.3 million people here, but this is a very close-knit community, and everybody had some sort of connection, a degree or two of separation from somebody who was involved downtown last week. And so that's the thing about Kansas City that is both wonderful and sometimes, everybody kind of knows what you're doing at times, but it's also one of those things that make this town wonderful is that when something does happen, everybody rallies. And that's what Kansas City has been doing for basically the last, 5+ days, is rallying around all the victims of that terrible shooting.
Rude Dog, go ahead.
Well, a lot of things kind of check the box here, right? We have acts of heroism tackling one out of the two guys that were involved in the shooting, which is extremely heroic. I believe there was one person rumored to have been shot in the foot in the process. And, hats off to those heroes, for those people that just stepped up, regardless of the situation, sacrifice themselves to help the greater good of everyone involved in watching this parade unfold, otherwise to be a very joyous event, now very tragic. And I'm a grandfather and a dad, and I recognize that I can't imagine the types of emotions that you were experiencing, or any other father or mother that were remote and not in that vicinity at that moment when gunfire opened up. So I can't even attest to how that feels, but just the unknown, I think, is the most disparaging feeling above all else, because you don't know what's going to happen. And the fact alone that this gunman was in the lobby of the hotel that your family was staying at, it speaks to the nerves that were probably very unsettling to you, Bob, in regards to everything that was unfolding.
Well, it really was. I mean, you think you're going down for a celebration of a parade, and then it turns into something, tragic, obviously. And it's one of the things that Kansas City has kind of prided itself on. We've been very fortunate to have 3 Super Bowl parades and a World Series parade in the last 10 years here in Kansas City. And when the Royals won the championship in 2015, we were very, very excited and very proud to let everybody know. I think there were 2 arrests, and they said there were like 1 million people down there, right? And so we were like, look, nobody gets arrested at these parades. Nobody misbehaves at these parades. And the first couple Chiefs parades, were great. And nobody got into trouble in either of those 2 parades. And now this parade, obviously, we see, what happened, and that changed that entire narrative. And it makes you wonder now, going forward, are there going to be celebrations like that? It's going to be interesting to see what the NBA and NHL champions do this year, and what the Major League Baseball World Series winner does this year. Will they have a parade like this? And next year, when the Chiefs win another championship, will they have a parade out at Union Station, or will they make it, a season ticket holder only event? I mean, everybody's kind of talking about ideas of what they think is going to happen, but we're still a week, less than a week out from that event. And I don't think anybody really knows what the answers are right now, but I don't think anybody, to kind of get to your point, wants to be in a situation where they feel helpless again, because I know I wasn't the only one. I mean, I can't imagine what my reaction would have been had I been down there. And you mentioned, the 2 guys who tackled, and the kind of the onlookers, if you will, the common folks like us that went out there and, were superstars that day. I don't know if I would have done that in that situation. It's hard to tell until you're in one of those type of situations. And thank God those guys did tackle that gunman, because it could have been a lot worse than it was. And yeah, we tragically lost a life, and 22 people were victims of this. But if those guys don't act right away and tackle that gunman, who knows what happens?
Bob, you messaged, you said, no safety debates. I agree, no gun debates, and I don't want to get into that, but you brought up the point about going to the parade. And now that, this does become like a bigger issue now. And I sent you a text and I was like, unless you're going to go to a concert now and go through, a metal detector, or you're going to go, how is it safe anymore? Really, this has to do with large crowds, Times Square, New Year's Eve. I mean, you're basically, if you're going to any sort of a where people congregate in a large portion, or maybe not, you don't know anymore what's what, but is it even really safe to go out into like public functions unless there's going to be some sort of security there?
Well, I don't think you can live your life in fear, right? And then that way the bad guys always win when you start living your life in fear. But I will say, I think a lot of people probably get a little aggravated, by the fact that they have to go through metal detectors at games and get patted down, and the clear bag policy and all that. After this event that took place on Wednesday here in Kansas City, I'm like, I love the fact that you can't get into a ball game or an arena now without going through those metal detectors and without having a clear bag and following proper protocol, because you actually get into an environment that feels a heck of a lot safer than just being outside at a park or at, at wherever, at a parade or something like that. So I really appreciate it now, looking back at all those changes that, the NFL and Major League Baseball and all the other leagues have made, that says you're not coming into this game unless you go through the metal detector and have the clear bag, and we can see everything that you're bringing in. I think it really is a great measure that all these leagues have put into place.
And what about the fact that the minor aspect? What kind of attention has that gotten in Kansas City? I can't think that they were probably, and again, I'm not in the mind, I wasn't there, of these two assailants who were open firing, but they were probably looking to shoot whoever they could shoot. They don't know who's going to be where or whatnot. But the fact that this has affected so many children, and now that this is, what's the talk around Kansas City about that? About how many children have been hurt, and how allegedly the two gunmen are under 18 as well, which isn't necessarily a surprise, but a lot of kids here.
Yeah, a lot of were involved, and it's going to be interesting to see, from a child standpoint. It's hard enough to be a kid today than it's ever been before, and I can't imagine as a child having to go through the trauma of being shot at a parade, because when you started this, you were talking about kind of getting back to the physical side and getting all the injuries healed like that, but the mental side is what I'm concerned about. And even for children who were not injured that day, there's still going to be that mental trauma that they have to live with their entire lives. And as we continue to move forward in this country and in this world, we're finding out how important mental health is, and we value mental health as important as anything we've ever valued before. I know from my standpoint, just talking to therapists and anxiety and dealing with all that stuff, how important the mental health aspect side of things is. And that's going to be the real thing for me, to see how these children respond and rebound from the mental health aspect side of things. The doctors here have done an amazing job. Children's Mercy is one of the great children's hospitals, and I believe all the kids, for the most part, have now been released and are going to be okay and whatnot. But that doesn't say how they're going to be affected for years, dealing with the mental side of things and recalling that moment and living through it. And the children who lost their mom that day, and the father who lost his wife that day, and everybody who was truly related and right there, like immediate family of Lisa Lopez Galvan, how they're going to move on from a mental standpoint. Because I think about it every day. I don't know what I would do from a mental standpoint, guys, if I was involved in that situation. I can't imagine a 14, 15, 13, 12, however year old kid trying to rebound. They always say, that children are great and they're able to rebound and all that kind of stuff. But these situations,
Resilient.
who knows? Yeah, resilient is the right word. But I mean, in these type of situations, having those nightmares and whatnot and thinking about it, I mean, these kids got a long time to live, right? Probably 60, 70 years left to live. And this is going to be something they probably think about just about every day.
Bob, if I had a family, and we can let you roll unless Rude Dog has one more for you. But if I had a family in Kansas City, we're just not going to the parade next year. I don't know how else to put it. You there?
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead, Rudy.
No, I was just going to say.
No, I was just going to say, we had that conversation.
Mm-hmm. There's a delay there. Sorry.
Is there a delay?
That's right. You go, Rudy.
No, I was just, you touched on such great content, because we just got done kind of finding ourselves through a very narrow passage, a very dark hallway, right? Without lights, into what mental health actually does look like and how to recover from that. And people are still recovering from it. I don't know what everybody's specific times or what they were doing during the COVID pandemic, but we're just now creeping ourselves out of it. Some people a lot slower than others. Why? Because of the mental components associated with why they were kept down so much and what they're currently working through. And then this happens. So you now have a compound fracture, right? It starts at elbow and works its way down. How do people find a way? And I know you're not a mental health expert by any stretch of the imagination, but from a father's standpoint, from your perspective, being there, discussing this on the Kansas City airways, how are people really trying to recover from this? I mean, there's no time frame from it, right? 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, maybe the rest of your life, depending on the level of trauma associated with these events.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's no playbook for something like this, right? We don't know because everybody's their own person. Your child may heal faster than my kid. My kid may heal faster than yours. Adults may heal faster, but I never really went through anything in my life like this, obviously, as a child, and I know I've dealt with mental health issues of that anxiety and always thinking, of the worst case scenarios. I can't imagine if I had lived through something like this as a child, how would it impact me as an adult? Because those things we learn as children definitely carry over and they become our kind of our habits and the things we use as crutches and whatnot as we become adults and the things we kind of harken back to. So I just can't imagine what this is going to be like for those children that were down there and were truly affected by this tragedy.
Bob, go enjoy the Kansas City sunshine on President's Day in February. You got the cold to freeze Tyreek Hill back in January. That came, and now they know the Chiefs season is over, and you get to be outside and lounge with us. Hopefully next time it's on a more positive topic, and I hope, there's nothing really to say here. I just keep moving forward, right, for the whole city. That's really all you can do. It's just an awful tragedy.
It is, man. It's what you got to do is just try to continue to move forward the best you can. Thank you for having me and allowing me to kind of talk. Very good conversation, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
All
Bob. We
right.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming
There-
on.
there-
Enjoy your Kansas City evening.
Thanks.
Yes, your KC evening. Enjoy that, okay?
Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Interesting stuff from Bob. He certainly, there are no answers to this. We all know that anybody who's been involved in things just like this, there's no timetable. There's no timetable for recovery, mental, emotional, physical, and otherwise. And all I can say about this entire situation is that we're just thinking out loud. There has to be some type of change mitigated in regards to guns and things of that nature. But again, that's not my realm. It's not my ballpark. I don't make the rules. I just abide by them.
For Rudy Rude Dog Reyes, I want to thank Bob Fescoe of 610 in Kansas City. I'm Evan Makovsky. This is the Issues of Sports, and we will see you on the next episode.